Try the blindfolded suturing challenge to build muscle memory in your fingers, because by removing vision, you're forced to rely on touch and motion alone. But this raises an interesting question. Can blind surgeons actually exist? In traditional surgery, the answer is a definite no, because good vision is absolutely essential for identifying anatomy and avoiding slashing through critical blood vessels and nerves. Even colorblind surgeons can have a hard time identifying bleeding. This can make surgery very unsafe. There's also the risk of breaking sterility when feeling around for your instruments, and in the meantime also poking yourself with needles and scalpels. But the future is likely to redefine what it means to be a surgeon. With robotic systems, AI guidance, and brain-computer interfaces, human vision might not always be required. Future surgical robots can translate 3D anatomy into tactile or auditory feedback. It'll be kind of like reading Braille. Imagine controlling a surgical robot that performs every movement while you guide it through thought alone. In this model, the surgeon becomes less of a hands-on operator and more of a strategist, planner, and director of the procedure. But until we reach this crazy future, use code VETVENTURES for 10% off your Suture Buddy kit. Are you a doctor but feel more like a lawyer? Medical pros waste over 60% of their time doing soul-crushing paperwork like soaping, which is a boring, standardized, robotic way of documenting patient encounters. I don't know about you, but I'm not a robot, so I don't do that anymore because this little genius AI voice recorder called Plot is only the size of a surgical suture packet, but can do any type of medical documentation better than me and can do it in 112 languages. It's great for surgical documentation because surgeons can have it on during surgery and not waste hours afterwards writing their notes. But that's not all. It's so thin and small it fits in a little magnetic pouch on the back of your phone to record, transcribe, and summarize all your phone calls, meetings, classes, and lectures. If you need to interview people, Plot will assess every candidate and give insights on which will be the best fit for the job. It's also amazing to capture all your great ideas in the moment at the press of a button, like when you're on a walk or in the middle of the night. Then you'll have them all in one place with bullet points or even a mind map visualization to organize your thoughts. Then you can ask the AI to do cool things like formulate social media posts from your ideas. There's a link in my bio if you want one, and let me know what you plan on using it for. Injection needles must be inserted at specific angles based on the tissue layer being targeted, so all students must practice using a smart syringe to get a good feel for exactly how to hold the syringe in every case. For IV injections, you must insert the needle at a 15 to 35 degree angle, with larger angles for deeper and larger veins. The medication will directly enter the bloodstream with almost immediate effects. For intramuscular injections, you must enter at a 90 degree angle. Muscles have an amazing blood supply, so the medication will be absorbed very quickly. Subcutaneous injections are made at a 45 degree angle while holding the syringe like a dart for maximum control. This layer under the skin consists mostly of fat, so has a poor blood supply. As a result, the medication will work more slowly but for a longer period of time. For intradermal injections, aim to insert the needle at a 5 to 15 degree angle, depending on the thickness of the skin. The medication will form a little bubble under the skin surface and be absorbed extremely slowly. Injecting at the wrong angle will land the needle in the wrong place, and injecting through the wrong route can cause massive complications including death. So definitely practice with a proximity smart syringe and injection pad before moving on to a real patient. If you see a scar resembling the last letter of the Greek alphabet, it may mean an omega flap was used to repair a circular skin defect. To create an omega advancement flap, a circle of the same diameter is drawn next to the defect, which touches it at point A. Then a tangent is drawn to both circles that passes through A. Another tangent of equal length is drawn on both sides, and these intersect the first tangent at a 60 degree angle. The resulting equilateral triangles are deepithelialized to avoid standing cones when the circular skin flap is lifted and advanced to cover the circular skin defect. In comparison to the majority of skin flaps that are planned in an angled shape, the omega skin flap does not require healthy tissue to be sacrificed around the defect to make it the same shape as the skin flap. It is also a step forward from the square peg in a round hole technique, where a rhomboid flap is forced to fit into a round defect. And once the sutures are placed, there should be minimal tension on the omega-shaped scar line, especially in comparison to if the circular defect was to be closed without any help. The last letter of the English alphabet also has its own surgical technique called the Z-plasty, so it seems like the best letters are always saved for last. As wounds heal, the skin contracts to help close the hole. Although this is a blessing for small injuries, it can be a curse for larger wounds in webbed areas like the armpits, where scar contracture causes stiffness and limits motion. In 1963, Dr. Mustard applied simple geometry to solve this problem. He sketched a stick figure resembling a person doing jumping jacks, cut along the lines, and rearranged the skin flaps to lengthen the scar and restore the patient's mobility. To plan the jumping man plasty, Dr. Mustard first drew a line along the scar. Then he added 2 branches from each end at 75 degree angles to form the arms. He drew the legs at 60 degree angles to the scar and each other, then finally the head at a 90 degree angle. Cutting along these lines enabled 2 Z-plasties and a Y to V-plasty, allowing a rearrangement of 5 skin flaps to elongate the scar line. So next time surgeons seem to be playing hangman on a patient's skin, they might just be mapping a jumping man plasty to unlock the patient's movement. It's important to note that the geometry of these skin flaps might need to be adjusted adjusted for each specific case, which is why thorough planning is always necessary before any surgery. By the way, if you need a stellar Christmas gift or a way to hone your suturing skills, use code VETVENTURES for 10% off a Suture Buddy kit and start practicing. These sterile surgical gloves are the most romantic piece of gear you'll find on any surgeon. Back in the 19th century, surgeons performed every operation barehanded, but Joseph Lister popularized aseptic surgery in the 1860s, so William Halsted had his surgeons and nurses wash their hands with soap, then a solution of potassium permanganate, a hot oxalic acid bath, and a mercury chloride compound before surgery. Dr. Halsted fell in love with his operating room nurse, Caroline Hampton. Unfortunately, in 1889, she announced she was quitting because of severe dermatitis from the harsh antiseptic solutions they were using. Faced with the risk of losing her as both a nurse and a future partner, Halsted had custom rubber gloves designed just for her. Well, they worked, and Halsted found that most of the rest of his staff also had rubber gloves made for themselves. Later, surgeon Joseph Bloodgood found that gloves reduced the risk of infection, and thus surgical gloves soon spread to other hospitals. William Halsted and Caroline Hampton were married soon after he gave her the gloves. Fast forward to today, and surgical gloves still symbolize the importance of the perfect fit, whether in surgery or in love. And I even wear them when practicing on my Suture Buddy so that everything feels the same as it does in surgery. LD50 is the amount of drug that is lethal to 50% of the experimental animals exposed to it. M99 or atorphine is the opioid drug used to immobilize gigantic mammals like elephants and rhinos. It is something like 2,000 times more potent than morphine, so a small volume administered by projectile syringes fired from dart guns is more than enough to quickly bring down these huge wild animals. However, this extreme potency makes atorphine a dangerous drug for humans to handle. The LD50 of atorphine in humans is only around 3 micrograms. In other words, a millionth of 3 grams will kill roughly 50% of exposed humans. For reference, a single drop of water weighs around 50,000 micrograms. So accidental exposure to a minute amount of atorphine can be fatal. This can pretty easily occur by accidentally stabbing oneself with the needle used to draw up the atorphine, or by rebounding the dart into the other hand when forcefully pulling it out of the skin, which is why atorphine supplied to vets always includes the human antidote naloxone, which has to be drawn up before the atorphine to be ready to immediately administer following any accidental human exposure. Wounds in thin, atrophic skin that is not strong enough to withstand cheese wiring of sutures can be closed using the lattice technique. Start by placing anchor stitches on either side of the wound. These are basically simple interrupted sutures but stitched parallel to the wound edge. They must be placed with sufficient tension to minimize slack while avoiding excessive tightening that could result in strangulation and scarring of the skin. Next, pass a closing stitch through the skin and loop it around the anchor stitches on either side. You can even place multiple closing stitches around a single pair of anchors for additional support of the repair. As you can see, compared to regular simple interrupted sutures that would cheese wire in this situation, the lattice technique increases the stability of the repair and distributes forces more broadly. And compared to other tension relieving techniques like the vertical mattress suture, its removal is very easy because the stitch does not sink into the skin. Its only issue is that the success of this technique is entirely dependent on anchor stitches being tied with the perfect amount of tension. To solve this problem, in 2012, Keith Noel invented a lattice stitch tension limiting device that goes over the anchor stitches to ensure proper tensioning. Very soon, surgeons located in the US may perform surgery on patients in Africa. Telesurgery is a groundbreaking innovation where advanced technology creates the presence of a surgeon when in reality the surgeon operating is on the other side of the planet. Theoretically, this could even allow teams of surgeons in different parts of the world to work together on the same patient. Just last year, surgeons at a university hospital in Singapore remotely conducted a series of gastrectomies on an artificial stomach more than 5,000 kilometers away in Japan. And while they operated from their cockpit in Singapore, every tiny movement performed was transmitted to and replicated by the arms of a surgical robot. However, the use of regular telecommunication lines is not feasible over vast distances because currently the average bandwidth is unable to support rapid enough transmission of information needed for telesurgery. So telesurgery requires a dedicated international fiber optic network to bring specialized surgical care to underserved and hard to reach parts of the world when surgeons themselves are not able to travel. The military is even considering designing a portable operating room with this technology implemented. Space surgery was pioneered by Dr. Yaroshenko in 1967 with his work in rodents at the Russian Space Agency, aka the Russian NASA. So let's say we make our surgical incision in the microgravity environment within a sterile surgical chamber in the International Space Station. Arterial and venous bleeding in space is less chaotic than on Earth and appears to form domes around the bleeding vessels due to surface tension. This blood must be suctioned away and the bleeding stopped by ligating or cauterizing the vessels. Meanwhile, the internal organs like intestines instruments must somehow be stopped from floating out and escaping the body. The surgical instruments must constantly be held onto or attached to stable objects to avoid them drifting off. Perfect apposition of wound edges in space may be more important than ever, as wounds are known to heal slower in space, and microgravity is known to increase the risk of scarring. But what if there is a surgical emergency in space and not enough time to get a surgeon up there? Telesurgery may be the solution. So earlier this year, a remotely operated surgical robot called Space Mira, launched by SpaceX, completed its first simulated surgical procedure at the ISS, while being controlled by 6 surgeons on Earth at the Virtual Incision Company headquarters. Their mission is to assess the impact of zero gravity while performing simulated surgical tasks. Space Mira was selected for this important job as it is the first miniaturized robotic-assisted surgery device that is roughly 1,000 times lighter than existing technologies, so perfect for launching into space.